So according to this guy, that neighborhood was purchased from the Native Americans by black people, developed by black people, given to black people for black people to live on, since it's a historically black neighborhood.
Do you know that? Do you know that? Do you know people like you came in here and basically bought all the land from the black people for less than what it was worth?
So you're saying that the black people sold the land to the white people. One person or group sells it to another person or group. Then the person who bought it becomes the rightful owner. Now, if you sold something, in this case land, for less than its value, is that the buyer's fault or the seller's fault? Because if I have something to sell, isn't it my responsibility to know its value? Just saying. So the person who was doing the selling didn't know the value of what they were selling. How's that the fault of the buyer? Just asking.
Kick them out so you can live here. Do you know that? Yeah. Do you know that?
That's because once they bought it, it no longer belonged to the previous owner. The previous owner had no right to stay there. Therefore, you had to go. Again, how is that the fault of the buyer? You sold it. Therefore, you had no rights to be there anymore. Two things can't occupy the same space at the same time. That's physics. I don't know if it has anything to do with race, but that is physics. You sold it, they owned it, they moved in. That means the previous occupant had to go.
Yeah. Because if you don't, now you fucking do. Now do something about it.
Yeah. Open your wallet.
What are you gonna do?
Open your wallet.
Open their wallet. They already paid for it one time. Didn't you listen to the other guy? They bought the land. They moved in. Why do they need to open their wallets again? You sold it undervalued. That's not their fault.
A historically black neighborhood. You live in a gentrified neighborhood.
Yeah.
You're part of that gentrification.
Yeah.
So how are you gonna fix it?
How are they going to fix what? What exactly do you want them to solve? It was your land. According to you, it was a historically black neighborhood. It was owned by black people. Black people sold it. So what do you want them to do? Teach you how to be better salesmen? To know the value of something that you have so you don't undersell it? That makes no sense.
What are you gonna do to fix it? Because you're part of that gentrification, that racist gentrification. How do you plan to fix it? Because you are living on black people land right now.
Okay, here's one thing they can fix. They can teach you the definition of sold. See, once black people sold it, it was no longer black people land. You're not living on black people land anymore. Just saying, you sold it. Again, how is that the fault of the buyer?
Yeah.
I mean, native land, but black people live here too.
Yeah.
So how do you plan to fix it? As a gentrifier, because you are part of that problem. How do you plan to fix it? Nothing. Just don't go nothing off. See, that's why your mom should have swallowed.
Whichever one it is, give us your house, give black people back their home.
Seriously, I'm getting tired of explaining this. You sold it, they bought it, it's theirs. They're not going to give you back something that they paid for. You can buy it back from them, but now you're just asking for people to give you shit. No, that's not how this works. They bought it, they moved in. You want it back, you buy it back from them. See, You just can't demand someone give you something that they paid for. It's not how this works.
We're sitting there comfortable as fuck, as if we didn't have gentrified this neighborhood.
I used to live in this neighborhood.
But I used to live in this neighborhood.
Used to being the operative word. Once you sold it, or your aunt sold it in this case, she had to move to a new location. She sold whatever it was she owned and moved. If she didn't own it, it wasn't hers. If she was renting it and they bought it from the owner, who apparently was also black, according to the other guy, then you've got to take your grievance up with the previous owner, not the new buyer. The new buyer isn't your problem. It's the person who sold it to Whitey. And if it was a previous owner was white, then the first guy lied.
I got here and my family was pushed out. And you're sitting up there having a good time with your other white friends.
How do you know their other friends are white?
You work for Amazon, don't you?
In all seriousness about this video, you can't demand people just give you stuff. You can't especially demand people give you stuff that they paid for. Now, what's the truly ironic part to all this is a lot of these people complain about how no one puts money into black neighborhoods and how they're run down and how, they're left behind and property values decrease and therefore funding for schools go down, etc., etc. Now, how the gentrification process works is money gets pumped into an area to renovate it, to make it better. And when you do that, it attracts a different class of people, meaning an economic class. Because rich people and middle class people are not going to live in a bad, run-down neighborhood. They're just not going to. So in order to increase property values, you have to put money in it. Now, when that happens, property values rise. It is inevitable. It's always going to be that way. Anything that you put money into renovating or making it better increases the value of it. So you complain when there's no money, and then you complain when there is money. Make up your mind. As a kid growing up, the area around me got developed by much, much nicer homes. This is how it happens. So I had to make a choice as an adult. I had to either find a way to afford those nice houses going up around my childhood home or be content with living in an impoverished neighborhoods all my life. That goes for anybody. The neighborhood wasn't gentrified because of racism. That's just idiotic. That's an idiotic argument. If you want the property value in an area to increase, you put money into renovating the housing structures, adding businesses to the area. This then brings jobs in. If the rent goes up because the property value goes up, you have two choices: move or find a way to afford it. It's as simple as that.